Hey, it's casymichelle. Welcome back to my channel where I make videos about a lot of things that I like because I like a lot of things. So, in today's video, I thought I would do something that I have never really I've never done anything like this before, just to kind of go out of my comfort zone, try new things. So, I see a lot of videos on YouTube by a lot of very talented producers. I'm out of center. Who make songs and beats out of like random things in like their house. Sometimes they do like a particular theme, like I saw an Internet Money video where a guy made a beat out of the Fortnite menu music, which was actually really cool. So I want to do something like that, even though I know that I don't have necessarily that kind of skill level. So we started small, and I decided to make a Christmassy sort of, I wouldn't call it a beat, it's like a mini song kind of thing. Anyway, and I decided to make all the drums and percussion out of this piece of Werther's original, which, mind you, if you have not had one of these things ever, you need to have one because these are delicious. I've been sleeping on these candies. Never had one before, like last Sunday when some guy brought them to my church. These are great candies, and I used them to make the drums in this awesome little Christmassy beat. So let's talk about what I did. Well, the first thing that I did was I recorded a bunch of sounds that I made with this. I had a vague idea for what I wanted to use, different kinds of sounds that I could make using this. I've already got a couple ideas for this candy. I get the idea that I'm gonna use this part, something like that, like the little wrapper part to make like a hi-hat sound. And then I think that could be tuned into like a snare. I think I'm gonna make the kick out of so after I had those initial sounds down, what I had to do was actually pick the individual sounds out of that entire recording that I was going to use for the drums. So I made a little loop out of the sort of wrapper sound, a hi-hat loop, and then I picked the sound for the kick and the snare. I kind of put them together first, and then I processed them. So, about the processing, I had a vague idea of how I was going to make them sound more kick, snare, and hi-hat like, but I'm really not that great at processing and like sound design and that sort of thing to begin with. So I just did my best with what I knew how to do, using like the channel settings and stuff like that, especially for the kick and the snare, and then throwing like some effect plugins onto them. So for the kick, the plugins that I used Fruity Blood Overdrive to kind of, I guess, give it some more body is what I was going for. A little bit more gain as well. Gain. I wanted to make the kick louder because it was a little quiet. That's what I mean. So yeah, and also just to give it a little bit of warmth, but not too much warmth as like a distortion plugin. Just a little bit. And then I used Maximus on one of the Punchy Drums presets. Maximus I use almost all the time on my drums. I'm pretty sure it's some kind of compressor. I apologize. I don't know exactly what it is, but it makes the drums sound really good. So I used one of the Punchy Drums presets. And then what I did was I applied an EQ to it to basically kind of boost the mid and low end to give the kick, again, more body, and cut a lot of the higher frequencies. Because of the wrapper on the candy, it had a lot of high frequencies that I didn't really like for a kick. It's a weird kick for sure, but so I cut those out. After I did that, I added a warmifier plugin, which is a great free plugin for, again, adding like warmth. It also added some more gain, which was good. And then the last thing I did, which I did not expect to work as well as it did, but I really liked how it turned out sounding, is I actually used the Free Bass Boost plugin because I felt like the kick didn't have enough low end. Honestly, I'm gonna try something. I don't know if this is gonna work, but let's see what this does. I'm gonna try and put a Fruity Bass Boost on the kick. That actually worked. Whoa. And it worked really well. I also forgot to mention that I played the sample for the kick at a lower, like I put it in the piano roll and I played it lower. So basically like I pitched it down, I think an octave from the original recording. Maybe even more than that, I can't remember right now. Alright, next was the snare. The snare honestly took, I feel like, a lot less processing to get it to sound like what I wanted it to, just because to begin with it sounded more like a snare than the kick did. So what I did with the snare was I put some reverb on it, and then I turned down the mix on the mixer, like I turned down the reverb a little bit, because I didn't want there to be too much reverb, but I wanted there to be a little bit more of like a tail, I guess, for the snare. I didn't want it to be too fast. And then I added some of the Fruity Fast distortion plugin to give it just a little bit more warmth and like more high end, I guess, a little bit. Again, I used the Fruity Blood Overdrive to boost it. I may have used that preset, may not have. Honestly, don't know.
That sounds cool.
And then I put the Maximus punchy drums on it. And that was basically it for the snare. I really liked how the snare started to sound anyway. I may have played it lower on the piano roll, maybe. Can't remember. Alright, so for the hats loop that I did, the first thing that I did was actually put some delay on it to give it more, like, of a rhythm going with it, because it was a little stagnant just by itself. So I put some delay on it, and I set it to like 2 on the time knob thingy, so that it was a really quick delay. And then I turned the level down so that it wasn't really loud and obnoxious and like, you know what I mean though? And then I EQ'd it. I cut out a lot of low end because for some reason there was a lot of low end in like this rapper noise. So I cut out a lot of the low end so it was just the high end. And then I used a Fruity limiter to compress it with the goal of like making some of the quieter parts louder. I don't know what that's called, and I to this day still don't really understand how compression works. So I just kind of used my ear and I did what sounded good. But yeah, I used Fruity limiter for that, and then I put the tiniest amount of reverb on it, just a little bit to give it more space in the mix. And yeah, that was it. That was literally how I made the drums for this Christmas song. And then as for the actual like instrumentation that I used, I mainly used FL Studio stock plugins. So I used Flex. There's a really great ePiano preset on Flex.
The main thing. So
it's part of the Obey compendium.
This is what it sounds like
That's
now.
how you pronounce that. I used that. I used another preset for like a main sort of melody. I used Citrus, a sub bass patch preset, a sub bass preset for the sub bass. I used and then I used Contact, the Kinetic Toys, in the candy section, the sort of candy presets. I used one of those for the main melody. I got some Jingle Bell samples from Google, and also a church bell, a tubular bell sample from a Metro Boomin drum kit. And that was basically it. So I was literally in the process of video editing, and I realized there are actually a bunch of elements to the song that I forgot to mention, so I just want to go over those really quickly. First one that warrants a lot of mention, I feel like, is this. This is a Flex preset. It's an 808 synth clean. I decided to add an 808 because I liked how it sounded. Okay, it sounds like this. This is the Contact melody that I mentioned. It is, yeah, the Candy Gumballs preset. There is this pad. I literally don't remember the name of this pad, but it is a Citrus preset. Following the same melody, I used the Strawberry Flutes preset from the Mellotron V, which is an Arturia plugin. Melody. That is now all of the elements in this song. I apologize, this video isn't super helpful, but I hope that it it can kind of inspire you to just experiment and try new things, even if you don't really know what you're doing. Because sometimes you're not gonna know what you're doing, and that's okay. You figure it out, right? And if you don't figure it out, you hopefully come out with something that sounds kind of okay. Like, I like how this sounds, so please enjoy, and I hope that you enjoy this video.